Check, check. I forgot to test my audio before I jumped on here. So, can you guys hear me okay? That is the question. Those of you, looks like all three of you, or 7 of you, 10 of you, cool, that are in here hanging out so far. So, this microphone is pretty awesome. This is from Aston Microphones. It's called the Stealth, and it's got an active mode and a passive mode. And when I was using this thing last week, I had it on active with the gain on the interface turned way down, and you guys were complaining about the audio, so not complaining, but telling me it wasn't all that great. So this time I put it on passive and turn the gain on the interface all the way up, and hopefully that'll help. What does this button do? Does that help any? Nope. What's this button do? Does that help any? Okay. I don't know what that button does, but I'm going to leave it on. Why not? Oh, let's see who all's here. I jumped on here. I usually try to jump on around 1 o'clock, and I guess I'm a little early today, but let's see. GoopTuber says maybe some compression. I'm not running my audio through a DAW, so I have no idea how to add compression through OBS, and I'm not going to sit here and try and figure it out either, if there is anything to figure out. So, let's see. Charles 75N, GoopTuber, Epic Esquire, Jack Collins from Louisiana, welcome to you. Archer, Scott Blumel, there's a name I don't recognize, somebody new. Says glad to be here, finally landed an off shift day. Cool, welcome to you. And I think that's all we got here at the moment, so so we'll test the audio the way that it is right now for a little while and see what happens. So, yeah, I've never, some of the other channels that I follow, like Stave Metal Ray and, Pete Thorne, for example, they've been, every time they have a video go up, they always set the premiere, and I've never messed with those before. So I decided I would add a premiere to a couple of videos that I uploaded late last night, early this morning, and sure enough, it sent out the alert that the premiere was, the premiere was up, and people are now able to comment on it. And in the meantime, the video doesn't go live for another 8 days. So I haven't. I don't know how that works or not. Yeah, I see a couple of you commenting on it already. Yes, 153 pedals. So, Scott Bluemel says, got my Rat Attack, the R Attack pedal. I assume you're talking about the RT2. Yeah, that's a good little Rat clone, man. If you like Rat pedals, and not everybody does. God knows I hated them for the longest time, But if you like Rat pedals, they are, the R Attack is called the RT2, is the model number, and the name of the pedal is called the R Attack. It's a company, from a company called Little Bear that I demoed here just a few weeks ago. And, it's actually 3 different Rat pedals in one. It's, the regular Rat 2, the version of the Rat pedal that, the standard version, if you will, that you can buy everywhere for like $70 or whatever it costs. There's the Rat, it's got the Rat 2 in it, it's got the Turbo Rat, and it's got the You Dirty Rat. All 3 of those, it clones all 3 of those versions of the Rat pedal and one pedal, and you can buy it for less than $50. So, yeah, it's a cool pedal. Epic Esquire says, Robert's Guitar Dungeon, so you have a Metallica shirt. They lost me after the Black Album, so I haven't seen them in concert since their tour with Guns N' Roses. Have you? Still a good show. Actually, the tour with Guns N' Roses was the last time that I saw them, which was I saw them in '92, I think it was. 90, I think, yeah, 91, 92, something like that. I mean, that was the tour with Faith No More as the special guest opening band. And every time that they had come around since then, something kept getting in the way for me. Either I didn't have the funds because those tickets aren't exactly cheap. There's a scheduling conflict, something like that. Something got in the way every single time, and they're not a band that goes out and they don't tour, they don't come to Indianapolis every year, so unfortunately I missed them every single time, and except up and they're coming back around again in 2019, touring behind Hardwired to Self-Destruct, and those tickets went on sale a year in advance, and they sold out instantly, and I didn't, unfortunately, missed out again, so I just chalked it up to another, one more incident. I wouldn't get to see my heroes. Well, a good buddy of mine, who happens to be one of the guitar buyers at Sweetwater, texted me. Actually, he called me at like 6 o'clock. The doors were opening in a half hour, and I was just wrapping up my day at work, getting ready to, I was heading for the car. I was going home, and he says, I got a ticket for you if you want to go, and I was like, you got a ticket for me? I said, he said, yeah, do you want it? If you don't, I got to find somebody else, but, if you want it, it's yours. So I said, give me 5 minutes. So I called Mrs. Jackson, made sure she was okay with me because it was on a Monday. So I called Mrs. Jackson to make sure she was okay with me going to see Metallica instead of coming right home, and she was. And, so I called him back. I said, I'll take it. So he said, okay, cool. We'll call it to you. Or actually, he just sent it to my email. You can do that nowadays. So I pulled it up on my phone on the way there and found a parking spot and walked right in. And as I was talking to him on the way in, and I called him on my way in. I said, "Where's the ticket at, by the way, out of curiosity? Not that I care." And he says, "They're floor seats." And so not only did I get to see Metallica when I wasn't expecting to, but I was right in the front row. So I did a whole video documenting that experience, and it was one of the most, because you guys know I'm such a diehard Metallica fan, it was one of the best experiences. Definitely the best concert experience of my life. I would go do it again tomorrow if I could. It was amazing. So to answer your question, do they still put on a good show? Absolutely. That was a long answer to that question, but yes. Let's see. Archer says, remember, if Dick joins the chat, don't be a dick. Oh, it's inevitable. It's, some jerk off is going to decide to show his face in here. But that's what I have a block button for. Gabriel Tone Guitars is here. Says he has a rat problem. I don't know if you're referring to the band or the pedal. The folks in the Geico commercial had a rat problem. I guess they still do. I guess they're still showing that commercial. Archer said, I've now watched 3 of your Boss comparison vids, and I was very surprised to see the Blues Driver in all 3. What a versatile pedal. So I bought one. You're welcome. Awesome, man. Yeah, that's a pedal I think everybody ought to have in their arsenal. Even if it's not one that you use all the time. But if you were to ask me what Boss's best pedal is, I would probably have to tell you that one. It's not necessarily my favorite, but their best pedal. A pedal that just about every guitar player in any genre out there can use. Find a use for. Blues Driver's tough to beat, man. Blues Driver is tough to beat. I thought it was a blues breaker circuit, and when I put, because I did a comparison video between that one and the Digitech Screamin' Blues, which is their version of it, and I posted it, and probably Pedal Boards of Doom. They're the biggest bunch of pretentious pedal pricks I've ever seen. They all started jumping on me. In this case, they were right though. Saying, "No, those aren't Bluesbreaker pedals. Those aren't Bluesbreaker overdrives." So I argued back with them just to piss them off, but I think really they were right. Let's see. By the way, and I didn't forget to do this week, if you guys do want to support the channel and get something back in return, pardon me, I got a link to my Teespring shop posted up there at the very top of the chat with one of the hoodies being featured, as it hoodie season is fast approaching. At least it is here in the Midwest. So those are really, really nice sweatshirts. So treat yourself to a hoodie if you need to buy winter clothes, and I would greatly appreciate it. So, but if you don't, that's okay too. Scott Bluemel says, was never a Rat pedal fan, but after Robert's review, I bought one, and I'm very happy with it. $50 well spent. Yep. I actually didn't. I hated Rat pedals. I didn't like them at all until it was the Electro-Harmonics flat iron fuzz, which is their Rat clone that they came out with a couple years ago. That's the one that turned me around, which is it doesn't. It's weird because it doesn't sound like a Rat. It does, but it doesn't. It's kind of got its own flavor to it. So, audio is very low. Somebody says, is anybody voice level a bit too low? Okay. Well, I got that turned all the way up. Does that help any? No. Does that help? No. Well, only other option. Go back to active. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. And if you guys are hearing echo, you're probably hearing it from my studio monitors, because there's some kind of latency thing going on that I've never been able to figure out how to get out of OBS. I hate OBS. Oh well. It is what it is. Scott Blumel says, Kiss Alive 2 tour is still one of the best shows I've seen. I always liked that live record. No, I'm sorry. It was the original Kiss Alive I really liked. Kiss Alive 2 was okay. Kiss Alive 3, so 1 and 3, the ones that I really, really liked the best. Big Cole is here. Welcome to you, sir. Says Lita Ford's birthday today. Happy birthday, Lita Ford, if you happen to be watching. I'm sure you're not, but if you happen to see this, happy birthday, Lita. She's a great guitar player. I like Lita Ford. Don B says, is it worth to buy the Wazacraft Blues Driver over the standard model? I've never played the Wazacraft version, to be honest. I know people love it. People that do own it really like it. It's the regular, the standard mode. I think, if I understand it right, the standard mode is basically the same thing that you get in the regular version, and then it's got the custom mode on top of it. So, but yeah, I've never gotten a chance to play the Wazacraft version. I need to. I'm sure I'd like it. Richard D. Little is here. Oilage here. What's up, dude? If you guys haven't checked out Oilage channel, you ought to. Good dude. Good dude and great guitar player, actually. He's in... Where are you? Italy? I think your first, you like your earliest videos were in Italian. So, I couldn't understand. I'm just a dumb American. I only speak English. So, but then you start France. That's right. French. So, I knew it was Europe somewhere. Yeah, anyway, go click on his name down there in the chat. Go check out his channel. He's a good dude. Oh, let's see. Serenity Guitars is here. Let's see. Richard D. Little says, okay, so I have my own theory on where all the guitars are, but curious what your thoughts are. Sound was fine, by the way. So I have my own theory on where all the guitars are. I have no idea what you're referring to. Archer says, okay, I'm a noob. What's a rat pedal? Rat pedal is a distortion pedal that's been around since, I think it came out like the late 70s. Company named Proco came out with it, and it's really, Proco aren't that big of a name. They make the rat pedal line. I've always made the rat pedal line, and they're actually nowadays probably more well known for like their cables and DI boxes, and they make a lot of live sound performance gear, that kind of stuff. So, guitar players know for the rat pedal, but everybody else is more familiar with that kind of stuff. But rat pedal was a distortion pedal that came out in the late 70s, and there's been several different versions of it over the years, but to my knowledge, some version or multiple versions of the rat pedal have been in production ever since. And it kind of walks the line between distortion and fuzz, which is why a lot of people don't like it. It's why I didn't like it for so long. And it's kind of a really high gain, just a nasty, gnarly kind of distortion. It's not the most, it's really not the most pleasing, smoothest sounding distortion in the world. Far from it, actually. But that has been what has made that, that's what makes that pedal great, and that's what makes it popular. So, Serenity Guitar says Metallica check D and C guitars V guitar. Okay, now Waleed, I feel like a moron. I'm sorry. You've told me that before too, and I forgot who I referred to as Oiled earlier, because again, I'm a dumb American, and that's the way that his name is spelled in dumbass American English. But his name is pronounced Waleed. So I will try to register that to the memory banks. Gabriel Tone Guitar says, I still have a rat problem. I was kind of on a quest there to try to pick up as many different versions of the rat pedal as I could. The You Dirty Rat, and the Turbo Rat, and the Fat Rat. That one I do still want, but honestly, I kind of backed off on that stuff actually after I got the R tack pedal, because that one had two of them there that I was looking for. Shroom Fiend. I guess we know what you do on the weekends. Says, ever have a Boss SE70 rack effect unit? No, I have never. I don't think I've ever had any rack mount guitar effects units before. You know, I'm not a big effects processor kind of guy. You know, I just they're I've always found them to be a pain in the ass to record, to program, and a pain in the ass to what sounds good in the room that I'm practicing in at home never seems to translate to the band scenario, and be it practice or live or whatever. And then I'm holding everybody else up because I'm tweaking knobs trying to figure out something that sounds decent but cuts through the mix, and I just don't get along with them. I never have. I never have. Richard D. Little says guitar shortages on new models of what? This has been it's been a banner year for Fender. Fender sold more guitars this year than they have, I think, any other year in their history. I was reading about that. And there's a lot of other companies that have done really, really well this year. God, I've bought 2, 3. I just ordered another guitar yesterday, so I had some gift cards that I burned up. John Taylor's here. Hail Mary Recordings says best reverb under $200. I'm looking at an Ocean's 11 or Hall of Fame 2. Those are both good choices. Those are both really good choices. Hall of Fame 2 is really become one of the like the staple reverb pedals out there. Between those two, that's probably the one I would go with. Again, though, the Ocean's 11 is really good too. I actually really like it's a little bit more expensive, but I like the MXR M300 reverb. It's a little bit more expensive, and it's a little bit more simplified. I think there's like six different reverbs on it instead of the 12 or whatever comes on the Hall of Fame. But I liked that about it, and the 6 that are on there I thought were really, really good sounding reverbs. So I demoed that pedal on my channel a long time ago. A friend of mine let me borrow it. So if it were me, I would. Yeah, God, man, I'd start there anyway. Of course, God, there's so many killer reverbs that are out on the market today. God, the Joyo Atmosphere is a great reverb pedal. That one's under $100. So I demoed that one recently, like within the last few months. Recently, I mean. Cosmic J is here. Says Rad is worth experimenting with lower gain settings too. That's actually where I run mine. High gain settings get a little too muddy or a little too fizzy, and lose a lot of clarity when you crank up the gain. And I try not to play with that much gain these days. Joey Van Ostrand is here. Says, hey Robert, I'm having a horrible time with Toman. The Amrock they sent me is defective. The bridge screws are stripped. The tuners are out of line. Drilled improperly. They pulled the entire line. Wow. That's not good. That's, the fact that they pulled the entire line sounds like they I don't know what factory built them, but sounds like that factory's going to be busy fixing mistakes and losing money for a while. So, yeah, sorry to hear that, man. I'm not familiar with Toman's operations. I don't really have any advice to give you about how to tackle that. Orlid says, no problem, man. I just did it again. Waleed says, no problem, man. Please don't say you're dumb. I think I just proved otherwise. Jack Collins says, I want one of them solar single kit guitars. I just want one of the Super Strat looking, models, one of the neck through ones. I've heard nothing but good things about the solar guitars. Doc Amos Roxy says, I'm a proud dumbass American. As am I. Well, I'm not real proud right now that I just screwed up Waleed's name twice and within like a 5-minute span. The second time right after he corrected me. So, I'm not real proud of that. Joey Van Ostrom says, I read quotes from the website. They're refusing to honor the 30-day return policy. I contact them after 2 days. Their best solution is to wait 2 months till the next batch is made. Not risking it. Sometimes that's all it takes. If a problem at the factory anyway is identified, and I don't know where they're built, but, if a problem at the factory is identified, they, a lot of times, they'll, if they have a bad run, because something was misaligned at the, within the, one of the machines on the line or something like that, or, it was just a Monday, Friday guitar. Sometimes a new batch, makes all the difference in the world, but doesn't say much for their, consistency in the long run. Chapman. I was doing some research about that. Chapman, you guys were, some of you told me not to buy my Chapman baritone. And, because you'd heard nothing but reports about quality issues, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I got mine, and it was phenomenal. Absolutely flawless. And I've discovered here in the last couple of days that the reason why is because they changed factories. And the new factory that they are building them out of now is, prides themselves on consistency and quality, and, they're doing it for the same price. So, because I had that expectation in my head, I said, okay, it's going to have sharp frets, it's going to have this, it's going to have some finish flaws, it's, all minor stuff, but, enough minor stuff that adds up kind of becomes annoying, and it didn't have anything on it. I couldn't find one thing to complain about, and I looked hard. But I also don't blame you for not wanting to risk it. Scott Blumel says, recommendation on a high gain distortion pedal / amp combo to get that dime bag tone. Really, the closest thing I've heard to get the dime bag tone, if you're not using, the old Randalls that he was using, is the dime distortion, MXR dime bag distortion, or the dime distortion. They don't call it the dime bag. The MXR dime distortion pedal actually sounds pretty close in the right settings. If you don't want one of those, then track down a used double shot distortion, which I demoed one of those on my channel a while back too. But it's the, I can't remember if it's the, the channel 1 or channel 2, because that's a 2-channel distortion pedal, but one of those is actually the dime. My understanding is one of those is actually the circuit from the dime distortion. So that's what I do. Unless you want the later dime bag tone, then you go track down a Frankenstein or a Crank Rev 1 Plus or something like that. Cosmic J says, Ocean Machine, ? I think that's the big version. I think you're referring to the big reverb pedal version of the Electro Harmonix Ocean 11 reverb. And that one's got a little too much going on for my taste. John Taylor says in '85, all the metal guys I knew ran a Rat with an EQ pedal into a JCM 800. A lot of them did, yeah. That was a real popular pedal to run into Marshalls back in the '80s. I can't understand why anybody, you know, I mean, I can understand running an overdrive pedal into an 800 for a solo boost or something like that, but you know, if it were me, I'd run some modulation effects into the back in the effects loop, and I'd plug my guitar straight into the front. I don't think there is anything that needs to be altered with the tone of an 800. Mike St. Croix says, I own a Digitech Supernatural ambient reverb pedal. That was one of the later ones to come out for the Hardwire series. That's a good reverb pedal too. Ooh. Sorry about that. Coffee went down the wrong throat and went around the wrong pipe. Whatever it is. Ugh. All right. Cosmic J says, I bought 5 Harley Bentons. One had to go back. The other 4 are still here. Still here, still good, he says. Joey Van Ostrin says, the only choice they have left me is to open a fraud investigation with Discover. I have had shit luck buying guitars online lately. 2 turds right in a row. Yeah, I gotta admit, you haven't had very good luck lately. Between that and the Firefly that you were telling us about a couple of weeks ago. Cosmic J says Tillman will switch factories if one is doing its job. Hail Mary Recording says we need to get Robert into nope, not reading the rest of that comment. Jack Collins says I'm still trying to get used to my Dimebag Daryl Razorback edition with skulls on it. I'm just not real good with Floyd. Hitting my Jackson is the only one Floyd's. Floyd's take, there's definitely a learning curve with a Floyd Rose guitar if you're not used to them, and you don't, if you haven't played a lot of them, you haven't owned a lot of them, you haven't worked on a lot of them. There's, like I said, there is a learning curve involved with those. It took me a long time to learn how to set up a Floyd. I mean a long time. So, years and years. And then once I finally did, I was finally a lot more comfortable with them. But one thing I like about guitars that don't have a Floyd or a tremolo on them at all, for that matter, is sometimes I like to switch tunings on the fly. I like to go from E standard to D standard, or drop D or something like that. You can't do that with a locking tremolo system. So at least not quickly, not on the fly. You can't. So, pardon me. So yeah, there is a bit of a learning curve with it, but stick with it. Like I said, I would take it down to your local guitar shop, whoever it is that sets up, that you have set that thing up for you. I'm assuming you've had somebody that knows what they're doing set it up. Next time you take it back in there, and you have him set it up for you again, restring it or whatever, stand there at his bench and watch him and ask questions. That's how I learned. Let's see. Doc Amos Roxy says I try to get him to try the very affordable 20. Nope, not reading the rest of that comment either. Gabriel Tone Guitar says I will never buy a cheap Chinese guitar. I don't have a problem with cheap or Chinese, and I think there's a lot of guitar companies out there that are, like the Harley Benton stuff. I think most. I don't know where those are. I don't know if those were Chinese or Indonesia or whatever it is, but I mean the vast majority of the Harley Benton stuff has been pretty good quality, near as I can tell, from whatever from what reviews and reports and demos and all that stuff seem to indicate. So, I mean, there's and I personally own several guitars made in China. I mean, not several, but a few, and my Charvel Desolation Skatecaster is the first one that comes to mind. That guitar is made in China, and it's a fantastic instrument. So, you guys know I'm not a necessarily big advocate that it has to be made in the U.S. or made in the U.K. or something like that. Joey Van Ostrom says he got a Harley Benton 212 vintage. I assume you're talking about their vintage 30 212 cab. That's phenomenal. I know a lot of people have been very happy with that cab too. God, you can even here in the U.S. you can buy that thing shipped for like $250 or something, can't you? I mean, they're very affordable, and they actually come with legit Celestion, the Chinese vintage 30s. They're not the UK ones, but still vintage 30s, which are the ones that they put in. I mean, that's the one that a lot of amp companies are going with nowadays. Are the ones made in China. I think those are the ones in the orange cabs. Cosmic J says, I thought Toman were working on a U.S. distribution center. Has it not started yet? I wasn't aware of that. That'd be interesting. And that would be a real big headache for Sweetwater. Hail Mary Recording says, get them drunk and turn them onto a big muff. Nope. Don't do fuzzes, don't do big muffs, and I don't drink. Haven't had a drink in 22 years. Sevinity Guitar says, you ever get your hands on a Vox amp plug or Black Star headphone amp? Nope. Not a headphone amp guy either, unfortunately. They're... I mean, nowadays, you can, especially if you're an iPhone user, you can plug a set of headphones in your iPhone and use, use the GarageBand app, or any number of other apps that you can download nowadays. So, actually, nowadays you don't even have to plug in. I guess you got to plug your guitar into something, but you can do that with iRig. Smartphone, cell phone, iPhone guitar interface. So, Christopher Morrow's here. Welcome to you, sir. Where are we at? 36 people. 36 people hanging out so far today. And Waleed's one of them. If you're just now jumping in, and you weren't here, 20 minutes ago, when I mispronounced Waleed's name twice. The second time I did it was like less than 5 minutes after he corrected me the first time. Make sure and go check out his YouTube channel. He's been doing. I think you and I got started right around the same time. We're pretty close to it. I think our subscriber counts are pretty close anyway. Though you're kind of in that class of like you, me, and Stay Metal Ray, and there's a few other smaller channels like us. Actually, Ray started his quite a bit later. I guess he's only been doing it like 2, maybe 3 years. I've been doing it almost 5. His channel took off a lot faster than mine did. Epitome says, man, what an echo. Yep, you either get an echo or low audio, according to some of you. So that's the best I got. So I could turn it down and get rid of some of the echo, like that. Or, actually, I know what I can do. I can turn my monitors down a little bit and see if that helps. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Oh well. Let's see. Pinball Pappy A says, Robert, what? What? Epitome says, Robert, what was your first guitar? First guitar and amp. My first guitar was a Strat copy from the 1980s called a TSX 2000. I still have it. I did a video on my entire guitar collection a couple of years ago, and you can see that sometimes you can see it hanging on the wall behind me when I'm recording in that room. And but in that particular video about my guitar collection, I did pull it off the wall and show it to you guys, so you can actually see it in that video. Actually, sharp looking guitar, but it's especially even for for that time, it was a cheap guitar then, but it probably is far better quality than the cheap Strat copies that are coming out now from a lot of companies. Anyway, but that was my first guitar. My first amp was a put it together yourself guitar package from a local music shop in Houston. That a guitar package that they put together. So it had that guitar and it had a Crate G10 amplifier in it of some kind that I hated. I couldn't wait to get rid of that amp. So I don't have the amp anymore, but I do have. Pardon me. Or the amp. Don't have that amp is long gone, but I do still have the guitar for nostalgic reasons, even though I don't play it anymore. Scott Bluemel says, ordered a dime pedal off Reverb. Tell us how to do a super chat or how to donate to the channel. Thankful for you and your input. My pleasure, sir. Super chat. There should be a button there on the bottom. The bottom of the chat there looks like a $sign. You can click that, and that'll donate to the super chat. You can also go to the, I think there should be a description box underneath the video, like there is on most other videos, in which case there's links to my Patreon account if you guys want to get involved there. I think it's still going. I've never done real well with Patreon, but I think it's still there. If not, there's also a link to my PayPal account if you just want to make a one-time donation instead of signing up for any kind of regular subscription. So any of those will work, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, you can also click the link to my Teespring shop there up at the top of the chat. Any of those will work. So any of those will work. Cosmic J says, tried stacking overdrives, each one set to moderate, a trick I learned from Tim Pierce and Tom Bukovic. I'm not familiar with Tom, but yeah, a lot of people like to do the stacking overdrive thing. I prefer running overdrive into distortion or into a broken up amp. My preference. So stacking overdrives seems to get it can get really, really, depending on the overdrives, I guess. It can kind of seem to get away from you and get really, really fizzy, and kind of hard to control. Really fizzy, and really noisy. So, been my experience with doing that. It's not my thing. John Taylor says, I agree, Robert. You don't need much of an 800, but that was the thing. And Rad of all things is funny looking back. I never owned that pedal myself. Not a fan. Yeah, if I were, if this were 35 years ago, if this were 1985 and I wwere playing through a JCM 800, I had to run something through the front, I probably would have gone with a Boss SD1 or a Tube Screamer or something like that. Yeah, I wouldn't have hit the front end of it with a Rat if I had to hit the front end of it with anything at all. So, Epitome says DD Tuna. Not sure what that means. Pinball Pappy A says, Robert, what are your thoughts on using a hot plate to get that Boston type sound? Is it worth it or not? It depends on the attenuator that you're using. The THD hot plate. I don't think THD's in business anymore, actually. The hot plates were real popular there for a while. I think there's stuff out now that's better. Like. For example, stuff that says 2 notes on it. So between the 2 note stuff, like the Sir IR loader, the Fryette, the Fryette load boxes and stuff that are out now, I think the stuff that's out now is better than the hot plate. That said, one of the best guitar tones that I had ever heard, I had a buddy of mine anyway, was playing a band that he was playing in. The other, it was him and another guitar player. The other guitar player had a, floor full of pedals and stuff in front of him, running into his whatever. I think he was running into like a Marshall, DSL or something. I can't remember what it was. And, the buddy of mine in particular, the guy's name is Neil. He had nothing on the floor with him, plugged straight into a Marshall JCM 800, dialed like that. Seriously, every knob on 10. And after the show, everybody came up to him and said, "Dude, how did you get that Marshall to sound that good?" It was, he was just getting compliments all over the place. And finally, after like the third or fourth person came up to him within like 5 minutes of their set ending, finally he just started laughing. He said the secret's in the back. So, you go and look on, in the back of this, because it was a JCM 800 into a 1960 412 cab. And on the back of his cab, he had gaff taped to the back a Tom Scholz power soak and a Boss chorus pedal. And he had just a little bit of chorus added to his tone, and the Tom Scholz power soak was doing the rest, and he was able to run that amp completely dimed. But it sounded killer. So, is it a way to, a good way to get the Boston type sound? Again, a lot of that depends on the amp that you're using, because that, a lot of that Boston sound came from a Rocktron amplifier that's about that big. So, a lot of it depends on the sound that you're using. But I think attenuators and load boxes and that kind of thing, especially with the recent popularity of impulse responses and things taking the place of speaker cabinets and stuff like that, that technology has come a long way. And the concern about attenuators eating up a lot of the high frequencies out of the tone are not necessarily that much of a concern anymore. So, short answer, yes. Tillman, keep the Harley Benton price down by cutting back on quality control. That's the deal. Gabriel Tone Guitar says Asian-made guitars are not collectible. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. The reason why is because Japan is in Asia, and Japanese, there are plenty of collectible guitars that came from Japan. Plenty. And a lot of them, have brands like Epiphone and Gibson and many, many others on the headstock. So, no, I don't agree with that at all. Jack Collins says, there's one thing about me, Robert. I do all my homework. I learned on the fly, and I got it. Shut up. It just took me... And I got it shut up. It just took me in, and like you said, a long time. I assume you're talking about learning you're talking about Floyd Rose. I don't know if I'm reading that accurately, but it sounds like you're talking about setting up a Floyd. So yes, be patient, keep at it, don't give up. It's frustrating, but you can figure it out. Cosmic J says Japan is in Asia. Agreed. Kobe says, Robert, do you notice that you've dialed in near enough the same tone on all of your amps, or are all of them wildly different voicings? No, I mean, I don't. I just use my ear, and again, some of it depends on the amp. Like my 900 is not dialed in anywhere remotely close to any of my, to my Randall Diavolo. My Randall Diavolo is not dialed in anywhere remotely close to my Panama 5-watt. My Panama 5-watt is not dialed in even anywhere remotely close to my Laney. Amps definitely have different voicings. So, I use my ear, and and I use the trick of when dialing something in for the first time, start with every knob at 12 o'clock, including the level, the volumes and masters and all the level knobs. Everything is at 12 o'clock, and if that is the default setting, the default tone of an amplifier, assuming that it is, then you can tweak each knob from there. And, from there, I usually start with the gain. So, and I'm usually turning the gain down instead of up to start. So, yeah, no, I think, a lot of amps sound a lot different. Southern Gentleman says, favorite guitar pick that you'd like to use? These. Dunlop Flow. Here's the package if you want to see it. Dunlop Flow Standard Performance Plectra. It's they're made of that Ultex material. Can you guys see that? Or is that? There it is. Trying to keep so you guys see it without getting the glare of that light that's right next to my camera in it. It's made of that Ultex material that Dunlop likes to use on a lot of stuff, but it's got a sharp tip. It's kind of a Jazz 3 shape, but it's not a Jazz 3 size. It's a Jazz 3 shape, but a standard size. I cannot use a Jazz 3 size pick to save my life. It's just way too small, and I can't do it. These, on the other hand, fit me a lot better and a lot more comfortable. I tried these on a whim. Before that, I was using Dunlop Max grips I still got a ton of those things left, but I was using Dunlop Max grips, nylon Max grips forever, and and I decided to try these on a whim, just for the hell of it, and all of a sudden I found that they really, really helped me to improve my playing, particularly my lead playing, because that sharp tip made a real big difference. So that is what I use now, and I use typically either a 1mm or a 0.88mm, one of the two. Jack Collins says, Robert, I'm Cajun with a very Cajun accent, so my phone don't say everything like it should. I see. Okay, so you're doing the speak to talk, the text, talk to text thing, or whatever they call that. Rick James 5150 says, do you buy a lot of guitars, cycle through them, and then sell them, or do you have your main guitars and satisfied with them? I'd be honest with you, I rarely sell guitars. Very rarely. I got almost, not all, but almost every guitar that I've ever owned, still. I don't like to sell guitars. I mean, unless it's something I just do not get along with for some reason. That's a different story. There have been a few of those, that I just didn't get along with. So, so I moved them on. I've had a PRS or two, PRS SE that is. A couple of those that I didn't bond with. You know, I had that Vester guitar that you guys, you know, that I did a video on a year or two ago, a year and a half ago. You know, and that was an okay guitar. It just, you know, it wasn't anything I was going to live without. So, Joey Van Ostrand and Scott Blumel, thank you both for supporting the channel. Joey says for listening to me whine. Thank you both. Thank you both very, very much. I greatly appreciate it. Scott Blumel says couldn't figure out how to send 20, so I'll go this route. All right, I guess it'll work. Thank you very much for the super chats, fellas. Big help. Kobe out says, Robert, since you don't drink, would a porterhouse steak on the grill be appropriate? Of course it would. I grill steaks and burgers, and matter of fact, when I'm as soon as we're done here with this here live chat, the grill's gonna get fired up, and I've got me some beer and brats. Not beer, but you know the package is labeled beer and brats is the flavor. Bratwurst that I'm gonna fire up here for myself this afternoon because I love to grill. Doc Amos Roxy says, what did I miss about not reading my post? I'm not a salesman. What did I don't know what that's referring to either, unfortunately. Sorry, dude. Serenity Guitars. Oh, you're talking amongst yourselves. Waleed says, I only have 3,900 subs. You're doing far better than me. I thought you had a lot more than that. I thought you were, 15,000 or something like that. My apologies. Well, there you go, guys. Go subscribe to Waleed's channel. If you don't do it for him, do it for me. Seriously. I think you guys like his content. Christopher Morrow says, all doing better than me. I only have 22 subscribers. We all started at zero, dude. All of us. And, especially there in the beginning until you finally figure it out, until you figure out that formula and that first video blows up and you finally actually physically get to see what it is that people want to see from you. And that's different for everybody. Yeah, but once you finally figure that out, and then you actually start to see some significant growth. And like I said, it took me 2 years before that happened for me, which is a lot longer than it seems to take most other people. But once you figure that out, and you get to see that first real big spike, trust me, then it makes everything worth it, because that's when it gets to be a lot of fun. And it's not the last time that happens. When assuming you keep at it anyway, that's not the last time that happens. So I mean, and it doesn't get old. It just doesn't. So. Scott Blumel says, last one, support Rob's. I'm going to overlook the fact that you called me Rob. Channel, fellow MFs. He's great and his reviews are in depth. Reach in and spend my bros. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Even though you called me Rob, and that pisses me off, but still, thank you very much. I'll forgive that one. Let's see. We got 38 people in here hanging out right now. Cool. See, Chris, there you go. There's Doc Amos Roxy asking, at Christopher Morrow, who are you and what's your channel about? Now is your chance to get your name out there. So go click on Christopher Morrow's channel. Click on Chris's name there. Go check out his channel and see what it's about and subscribe to it. G10 beat my gorilla back in the day. I don't know, man. You guys know I'm a pretty big advocate of crate amps. I like crate amps quite a bit, but that G10 that I had, that first one, was garbage. Big garbage. I mean, God, it was terrible. I mean, I almost would have rather had a gorilla. If you came to me today, and said I'm going to give you one of these, a crate G10 or a gorilla, I would probably take the gorilla. Dude, Lefty Guitarist, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. Although SEK, I don't know what currency that is. Where you at? Where you from? Give me a second here. I gotta find my spot. And you guys are doing a lot of chatting amongst yourselves here too. So Doc Amos Roxy says, I didn't know how to donate forever. Old guy, don't trust internet. But eventually came around. Svenny Guitar says, Robert, are you a watch guy also? Not really. I mean, I appreciate nice watches. Always, this is a Citizen. That's a Citizen's Echo Drive. Let's see if there we go. And I've actually always wanted. I had always wanted one of these. Always wanted an Echo Drive, and I don't need a Rolex or anything like that. There's Rolex guys out there that swear by them, and I don't need anything that crazy. I need something reliable, tells time. My dad's had an Echo Drive for 20 or 30 years. So I actually first got turned on to him, when Eli Manning was doing some endorsement work for Citizen watches at the time. That's actually kind of what turned me on to him, because I'm a big, huge Peyton Manning fan. So when you're a Peyton Manning fan, you also kind of become an Eli fan and fan of the entire Manning family. So, but I wanted an Echo Drive for years, and my wife and I were on vacation down in Mexico here right at about a year ago, as a matter of fact. And we were, if you've never been to Cancun, there's, everything in Cancun is all on one road. And, there's, at one end of the road, there's a big shopping mall. It's kind of an outdoor shopping mall thing. And we were, doing some souvenir shopping one afternoon. And we happened to walk by a watch place that was having a big sale, because it happened to be Mexican. They were having a sale for Mexican Independence Day, and I saw this watch that I had been looking for forever at the best price. I mean, I probably paid 20% of what it would have cost me here back in what it would have cost me here in the U.S. I had never seen a Citizen's Echo Drive this cheap, so I snagged it while I could, and been very happy with it. I haven't had to wind it or anything. I haven't had to touch it once. Works great. So, I appreciate a very nice watch. Am I a connoisseur? No. But I could stand a couple more Citizen watches in my belt for different scenarios. Maybe one that might be a little dressier, and one that might be a little bit more casual and rugged for playing golf and stuff. Christopher Morris says, I just donated some vintage Ibanez pedal boxes to the JHS show. Anyone who watches that show knows that Josh Scott is a little OCD about the box. I don't know what it was about the. I do watch his channel. I don't watch every video, but I do watch some of them. I don't know what his thing is with the Ibanez boxes, though. That's new to me. Pardon me. Vintage Guitars. Oh, nope, that one's not directed at me. Waleed says Edwards Guitars. I think he's referring to collectible guitars made in Japan. Again, is what that refers to. Joey Van Ostren says, I've seriously considered one of those Randall RD45s. They sound brutal. I just go buy one, dude. I've got the RD20, which is the exact same amp. The only difference is the power. Same preamp and everything other than those two amps is other than the power of the price tag. That's the only difference between them. And I love mine. That one's a keeper. Gabriel Tone Guitar says you don't see Japanese cars at a car show because they're from Japan. That's the car market, man. That's totally different. We're not talking about cars. This is a guitar channel, and there are very much indeed collectible guitars from Japan. Mikey Gabbard says, anyone tried one of those Randall MTS amps? I have. I own one actually, and it's awesome. Unfortunately, they don't make those anymore, but my understanding is the modules for the MTS series amplifiers are compatible now with the Synergy amps and the Synergy amplifier, or the Synergy modules. So if you got a bunch of old MTS modules sitting around, buy a Synergy amp and you can still use them. If you don't track down a used Randall module amp of some kind. But yeah, those are those Randall module amps were absolutely awesome. Yep, I've got 3 modules for mine. Savita Guitar says I want Randall's the Randall Satan, which was the Ola England signature head. Unfortunately, he jumped ship from Randall, and they discontinued that amp right after that. At least I think that's the order it went in. It may have been the other way around, I guess. But yeah, he ended his endorsement deal with Randall, and his signature amp head went right behind it. So, sorry about that. Pinball Pappy A says, what are your top 5 pickup setups? Oh boy. Top 5 pickup sets. Seymour Duncan, JB Jazz combo. Probably Duncan JB 59. Gibson 496 500. Gibson 490, 498 in the right guitar. And DiMarzio, oh boy. Man, I don't know. If you pick one more, I'd probably have to say DiMarzio. Tone Zone or Super Distortion. I'd probably go Tone Zone and the bridge and PAF in the neck. So, yeah, something along those lines. Joseph Ricchetti's here, says, I still have my 68 Fender Stratocaster my parents bought me in 1973, my very first guitar. I don't run into too many people, people are always, surprised when I tell them that I still have my very first guitar, and I don't run into too many other people that still do. I'm glad to hear that I'm not alone. But speaking of, you said Fender Stratocaster, that reminds me of another collectible guitar made in Japan. The earliest Squier guitars were made in Japan, and those are actually very, very collectible. Not necessarily the most valuable guitars in the world, but they are absolutely very collectible and very highly sought after. So, there's another example of a collectible guitar that came from Japan. Came from Asia. All right, I'm going to get off that here for the rest of this podcast. Or, not podcast, but live stream. Let's see. Southern Gentleman says, favorite electric guitar strings and gauge. I've been an Ernie Ball Slinky most of my life. And so, I prefer Slinkies for the, as far as gauges go, that depends on the guitar it's going on and the scale length of the guitar, where I'm going to be tuning it. There's a lot of different factors. I mean, I don't necessarily have a favorite gauge set. I do prefer lighter strings. So, I've started going, Rick Beato did a video here recently talking about how to tighten up the bottom end of a guitar, of your guitar tone. And, talked about using different effects and amps and stuff like that. And Dave Friedman pointed out to him at one point that, so, you can just switch to lighter strings on your guitar and you'll accomplish the exact same thing. So they tested it, and they went from, I think they were testing with a Les Paul Standard, and they tested it from like 11s to 10s to 9s or something like that. So at any rate, they they got all the way down, and and there's, you can, if you listen to the video, listen with a good pair of headphones, but you can absolutely hear the difference. And I never thought of it that way before. So I've always liked lighter string gauges, but 9 to 42 is about the lowest that I would go. But I recently put a set of 8 to 38 on one of my BC Riches that I keep tuned standard, and I really, really like the way they feel, and I like the way it sounds. So lighter strings are now becoming popular again, thanks to Rick. So, but to answer your question, Ernie Ball Slinkies, I like Dunlops, Dunlop nickel plated, all the Dunlop electric guitar strings actually. And here lately, I've been actually been using Elixir Polyweb electric strings on a lot of guitars, just because I like the way that they feel. I like their playability, and they're also handy because they're for extending the life of strings. So they're also handy to put on guitars that I don't play quite as often, and keep those strings fresher longer. Joey Van Ostrin says, "Hey Robert, how much does YouTube rob you of the super chats?" I think 30%. So for every dollar that somebody kicks in, YouTube takes 30 cents out of it, and then gives me the rest. And then what's left of that, a chunk of that goes to Uncle Sam. Gobiel says, Robert, did you ever get that guitar locked in the case of the headset EMG's busted out? Nope, it's still sitting in the exact same spot it was the last time I talked about that, and I haven't even thought about it, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll make that a good couch project or something tomorrow while I'm watching football. But nope, it's still sitting in there. It's still sitting there. Mikey Gabbard says, I didn't know Synergy amps were a thing. They are. Fairly new thing, like within the last 2, 3, 4 years or something like that. They've got quite a few different amp models now, but basically I don't want to say that they're like identical to the Randall MTS series amps of the late 90s and early 2000s, but it's absolutely the same idea. And Bruce Egnater's, my understanding, is very closely involved with the Synergy stuff right now as well. So, and he was the guy that one of the main people that designed the original module amps. So. Lefty guitarist, as he is in Sweden. And Swedish krona, says Mikey Gabbard. Okay. Whatever part of the world you're from and whatever currency you spend in, regardless, whatever it was, thank you very much for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Thank all of you. Thank you to all of you for, whether super chat or no super chat, just coming to hang out for a while with me here today, man. That's always that's what makes these things fun. So, some weeks we seem to get 30 people or so. Some we get 40. We've cracked 50 a couple of times, but it's there for a while. When I first started doing these live streams, we were doing good to crack 20. So, they're slowly growing. Ooh, Jack Collins says I had 16 guitars, now I have 13. I had to sell, tell self 3 when Hurricane Laura came tore his house up. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm sorry to hear that. It's been a bad hurricane season down there in that part of the world. I love Houston, but that's one thing I don't miss about it. That's one thing I do not miss about it. Although Laura was aimed right at Houston. Pardon me. Laura was aimed right at Houston and, pretty much completely missed. I think it swooped north and hammered somebody else, unfortunately. A couple of y'all says, Robert, did the dungeon moniker have an origin in D&D or just the direct correlation? Nope, no D&D ties at all. Just me standing around in my, standing around in my music room. Not long after we moved into this house, actually, not long after we bought and moved in, and I had guitars piled up in one place, and amps piled up over here, and amps piled up over here, and I mean it was a, it was a disaster zone, and there was a lot of work to get everything set up. And I looked around, and as I was starting to get some things, amps plugged in and guitars taken out of the cases, and realized and I hadn't hung the slot wall in there yet, and looking around, and and I remember looking around saying to myself, this place is a freaking dungeon right now. And none of it came to my head, said I started a channel called start a YouTube channel called do guitar videos called Robert's Guitar Dungeon. And that's where it came from. Unfortunately, that's not any more of an exciting story than that. Terrence Fleming, I was just about to read your comment, and then the stupid chat jumped all the way down to the bottom for me before I wanted it to. Let's see. Terrence Fleming says, Robert, I want to replace the volume and tone pots and add orange drop caps to my old 80s court lawsuit Les Paul copy. Is there a secret to perfect soldering, or should I just pay somebody to do it? If you don't know how to solder yourself, I would have no shame whatsoever in paying somebody. Soldering's not easy. I mean, I can do it, but I'm not real good at it. Honestly, sometimes there's been times when I've swapped out pickups or pots or stuff like that. Sometimes I do okay and it comes out, everything comes out working right the way it's supposed to, and other times I don't. There is, apparently there is a fine art to it, or you just got to do it a lot to get used to it. I'm not sure, but yeah, soldering's not always a lot of fun, and not everybody can do it. So I wouldn't be afraid to take it to somebody. Honestly, I wouldn't be afraid to take it to somebody, to pay him to do it, even if you just don't want to mess with it. So even if you are capable. Joey Van Ostrom says I have a 120 watt crate GTX 1200 that's killer solid state. I'm the only one that thinks that. I am actually working on a way to prove your side of that theory. So Scott Blumel says, okay, Robert. Yes, I get very, very irritated when people shorten my name without my permission. So that's what that's about. So I'm assuming that you're new here. It didn't know before now, but now you know. Man. Allergy season. Sevinity Guitar says, Robert, yes, Echo Drive is greatest and very great. I got one also. Yeah, I don't go too expensive. Apple Watch is the most I paid for a watch. Best watch I own is the Citizen. Yeah, I mean, I need functional and reliable. I don't need flashy. I don't need flashy. I don't need status symbol. I don't need I don't need any of that stuff. I don't care about any of that stuff. I want nice to look at, functional, reliable, and that's what this is. Says Robert, getting close to any time when I get up there, taking you to shoot at a range. Again, man, I'm not a gun guy, man. God bless the Second Amendment, of the United States Constitution, but just because I can own one doesn't mean I need to. So. It says Fortin has a Nodus amp, basically the Satan, although they're rarely if ever available to buy from Fortin. That's because they were both designed by the same guy. Mike Fortin designed the Randall Satan as well. But to your, there's a lot of, with Fortin amps, he'll build something, he'll build like one or two of them, and then he'll post on Facebook, says, hey, I've got one of these models or two of these models available if anybody wants them, and they're gone instantly. So, and those are not cheap either. I mean, there are plenty of Fortin amps that are $6,000 and up. Those amps are pretty awesome. Real Tone Guitar says nothing made in Japan is collectible deal. I strongly disagree. I've offered several examples that suggest otherwise. Scott Bluemel says, String Joy. Great strings and U.S. made. I've actually never tried String Joys. Mikey Gabbard says, NYXL9s. Don B says, Slinky since 1974. Not since 74, but since probably 87, 88, 89 probably. Doc Avers Roxy says, anyone familiar with the old late 70s, early 80s Yamaha G-Series solid-state amps? They're incredible, clean pedal platforms. I picked up two on local used market for $80 for 50 watts, or 50 watt 210, and $60 for 112. They were, those amps were basically Yamaha's answer to the Roland JC120. So yes, they're actually very, 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 very good clean channel, very good clean sounding amps, very good clean, very good pedal platforms. Gain channel on them isn't the greatest sounding, but they do take pedals very, very well. Gabriel Tone says, did you say Squires are collectible? OMG. The early Squires are, yes. As a matter of fact, the earliest ones were made in Japan. And those are the ones that there's a lot of Fender fanatics out there that really, really like those guitars, and because they're very well made instruments. So Mikey Gabbard says, yeah, most YouTubers are constantly pushing my Patreon link instead of Super Chats. Patreon takes a chunk too, I believe, but like I said, I've never pushed my Patreon because I mean, the reason why, most most YouTube creators that do, the reason, the thing with Patreon is, the viewers, the fans that contribute and support via Patreon, they get a little, the creators get a little something extra, and either early releases, or they get chat, like live stream videos, exclusive videos to them, stuff like that. And I just, number one, my Patreon's not big enough, and number two, pardon me, I just don't have, I just don't have the time to, be able to, come up with even, with, another set of content for, for a specific, group of viewers. So, that's why I've, if anything, I would push push a one-time donation through PayPal, more than anything else. So, let's see. And I actually happen to like Gabriel Tone guitars, but I know what I'm talking about. Waleed says an earthquake happened. Yes, there was an earthquake that hit LA last night, I heard. 4 point something or other. It wasn't the worst earthquake ever, but my actually, through YouTube, Kim Iverson, she had posted something about that on, because she's in LA. She posted something about that on YouTube, and or on Facebook rather. So I don't know if she had. I don't know if she hadn't responded back and said she's okay. I assume she is, but if she posted on Facebook, I got to assume. I haven't heard that anything was too horrible, but let's see. Christopher Morrow, thank you, sir, for the super chat. So thanks for all you do and all the help you've offered for my channel. Maybe I can use that coupon you get. Maybe I can use that coupon to get you a free drink. I don't know what coupon you're talking. Oh, I know. The McDonald's one. Yeah, I do. Spinning Guitars says, this is my football time. I only get into racing and UFC. I was in a NASCAR there for a couple of years there, probably 10, 12 years ago, I guess. The number one, I got sick of watching Jimmy Johnson win. I think he won 5 in a row, and then so I got sick of knowing who was going to win the cup at the end of the year, depending on which company's name was on it. At that time, it was Nextel. So I got sick of seeing Jimmy Johnson win. Nothing against Jimmy Johnson. I just got sick of seeing him win every year. And NASCAR spent way too much on marketing, and they way overexposed themselves, and that's not a good thing. I mean, I just got burned out on it. I haven't sat down and watched a race in a long time. The same argument could be made for the NFL. The NFL is arguably very overexposed right now too, but I love football. I'll never get tired of watching football. Doc Amos Roxy in the super chat. Thank you, sir. Says thanks for Saturday chats. No Big Ten football yet. Not yet, but rumor has it they decided they're going to start playing here, I think sometime in October. So if you're into college football. Waleed says L.A. and Texas seem to be a dangerous place to live in. I mean, no more so than anywhere else. With there's I don't think there's a place anywhere in the country, here in the U.S. that's 100% safe to live. With California, you got earthquakes. Up in and you got earthquakes and wildfires. You got Texas. You got you got hurricanes and tornadoes, and you got tornadoes pretty much anywhere in the central part of the United States. Hurricanes all along the the East Coast and the Gulf Coast. Up here in my part of the world, we got blizzards and stuff to contend with in the wintertime. It's not so bad here as it is, in like as it is in places like Chicago, Minneapolis. But that's just Mother Nature's way of reminding us all every now and again just how small we really are. As Patrick Swayze once said. Let's see. Mikey Average says, weird, I only like the big cities in Texas. For sure, well, there's a lot of them. Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, and then there's the larger, the smaller cities, like, there's still cities like El Paso and Amarillo and what is Laredo, places like that, San Angelo, Waco, Huntsville. So Texas is a big place. Mikey Gabbard says, okay, Houston is a hellhole, and you know how I feel about hellholes. I'm going to ignore that. Doc Ames Roxy says, Austin's getting too political. So is every other city in the country right now, unfortunately. Let's see. Dean Harkness says, I saw them in Birmingham last year, and believe it or not, I got my tickets for $37.50. I'm not sure who you're referring to, unfortunately, but Metallica, maybe? Yeah, there you go. So there's nothing like being in the crowd when they're playing Creeping Death. Unfortunately, they did play Creeping Death. And I actually bought the, because they record all their live shows like a lot of bands do now. So I actually bought the recording and I listened to it often because, again, it was such a great time and, such a great, place for, a great opportunity for, memories to be made, for me. And they didn't play unfortunately they didn't play Fade to Black, which I was disappointed about because that's one of my all-time favorite Metallica songs. But they didn't play Fade to Black, they didn't play Sanitarium, but they did play Creeping Death, and they did play Ride the Lightning, and that was badass. Because they don't, they went through a stretch there like 10 or 15 years. They didn't play Ride the Lightning very often at all. But they did. They played it for us, and what was cool about it, if you didn't go to the tour, part of the one of the big things of that tour was, they had these giant cubes that you didn't notice them at the start of the show because they played the first 3 songs and didn't do anything with them, and then all of a sudden, they played. They played a couple songs off the new album to open, which they always do. Then they played Seek and Destroy, and then they played. The 4th song that they played was Ride the Lightning. And at that time, when they started to play Ride the Lightning, all of a sudden these giant boxes that surrounded the entire ceiling above the stage, all of a sudden, and there was like 2 rows of them all the way around. All of a sudden they all lit up and they dropped down, and that was like the animation portion of most of the show. Outside of the pyro, and I mean, there's a lot of theatrics in that show. It was great, but the big light cube TV cube things. I don't know I can't remember what they were calling them, but when those things came down in the middle of no, not in the middle. They came down like almost right at the beginning of Ride the Lightning, and it was awesome. Great show. I love Metallica. Infamous says, Robert, have you played a Fort and Sigil yet? I have not. I think that's another one of those really, really expensive ones. So, I don't know. Maybe I ought to reach out to Mike Fortin and see if I don't know, man. He's got such a strong reputation. He doesn't really need people to demo his amps on YouTube or anything. All he's got to do is build them and stick his name on them, and they fly out the door for him. Let's see. Doc Ames Roxy says, is it ever dangerous to tube amps to jam front end too hard with pedals? That sounds like you're asking, is it, can you run too much stuff into the front of an amplifier? Is it going to hurt it? As long as it's all passive, and 99% pedals are, then no. Matter of fact, I can't think of anything active that you would run into the front end of a guitar amp. So, other than the guitar itself. Yeah. Now, you can. It's, may not sound great. And, there will come a point that, if you're really pushing it way too hard, you might do some damage to the speaker. Because a speaker's not meant to handle that kind of gain or that much frequency, frequency levels, or that kind of, those kinds of noise level. So you might do some damage. Might be a little hard on the speaker if you get to a point. But to my knowledge, again, I'm not an electronics engineer, but to my knowledge, it shouldn't hurt the amplifier at all. Nicholas Papadopoulos. That's definitely Greek. Says, hello, Robert. Always great video. Thanks for sharing so many interesting facts about guitars, equipment, music, etc. Your opinion about LTD ESP MH100QM. The LTD line is, it's kind of gone through its ups and downs over the last, 10 years, 12 years. 10 years anyway, there for like, I remember back in the 90s, the LTDs were garbage. They were kind of earning themselves a reputation, not unlike Squiers of the 90s, garbage, entry-level, cheap versions of ESPs. That's what people thought of them, and then they started putting some money into them and started to actually, build some quality guitars. That were not quite as expensive, a lot of that being due to where they're being built, be it, Korea or China or Indonesia, wherever they're making LTDs nowadays, but still good quality instruments. So, that's, they do make a lot of nice guitars. There's some guitars really that you can only get in the LTD line because, for example, the Ben Burnley from Breaking Benjamin, he's got a signature baritone model that I think you can only buy it in the LTD brand. And I got to assume that ESP made him an actual ESP custom shop version. I saw them live a few years ago, but I wasn't. It was at a much smaller venue, and I wasn't close enough to the stage to be able to see the headstock on it. It sure looked an awful lot like what he was playing was the LTD version. So, so there are some things that they don't necessarily make an ESP version of just because they're so expensive, and they're not. If they did, they wouldn't sell. They wouldn't sell all the time. Short answer to your question. they're, ESP necks, I'm, LTD necks, I'm kind of so on. There's some models in general, some I like, some I don't. I love the ESP guitars, the LTDs, like I said. I mean, there's some I like, some I don't. There's not really any of them, that I just, that I just gotta have. For as much as I love, love Metallica, who are two of their biggest endorsers, I'm real lukewarm. Nothing negative to say about the LTDs, but for me personally, I'm just kind of lukewarm on them. I don't know. Maybe I ought to grab one or two and try them. I haven't played any of them in a while now. Maybe they got one or two out there that would change my mind again. Zim's Guitars. Do you own any Chapmans? Yes. This is my ML1 baritone guitar that I really, really love. That some of you guys told me was going to arrive, as I mentioned earlier here. Some of you guys assured me that this thing was going to arrive with all kinds of quality problems and, among other things. And it showed up absolutely flawless. Rolled frets and no finish flaws whatsoever. And, good quality electronics. And, the neck's a little fatter than what I'm used to. The neck's probably a little more along the lines of like a Fender Modern C profile. Fender Modern C profile, as opposed to like the uber thin, Schecter SLS and BC Rich and Ibanez necks that I've been, kind of grown accustomed to over the last couple of years. But yes, this is my Chapman. And if you weren't hanging out here earlier, I mentioned earlier that I actually ordered another guitar yesterday that should be here first part of next week. That is also a Chapman. But that's all I'm going to reveal about that. Pinball Papier says, Robert, what is your current favorite guitar and why? Music Man Majesty. It's best playing guitar that I've probably ever owned, and extremely versatile tone wise, and there's just nothing about it that is not awesome. The first time I played one, I had to get a hold of one, and it took me a year and a half to save up for that guitar because they're not cheap. But it took me a year and a half to save up for one, and I finally saved up for it, and I finally bought it. And I'm gonna be buried with that thing. That's the matter of fact. That's a guitar I could stand to own another one or two of for various different purposes. Orville Farley, there's a name I don't recognize. Welcome to you. Says, the way things are right now around the world, I'm happy that I'm far from any city. I'm not going to argue with that. Waleed says, I only watched Metallica twice. I haven't got to see him nearly as often, nearly as many times as I would have liked to either. But the last time that I did see him, it was, I was much older in life and able to appreciate things a lot more than I would have when I was a kid, and I was stone cold sober, and I remember every bit of it. Let's see. Svenny Guitar says, YouTube is the only way to get music content and gear content. That's why it's my football time. Nerd out on music stuff. I actually don't get a lot of time to watch YouTube videos, to be honest. People send me videos all the time. Hey, check this out, or this has something to do with something you were talking about, and there's the channels that that I do follow pretty regularly. I watch. I don't think there's nobody out there that I watch everybody's video, not even mine. But there's some that I do watch more than others. I watch a lot of, you guys know I'm a big fan of Fluffs. I'm a big fan of Pete Thorne. I really like Stay Metal Raised content. A few others out there, but Anderton's, Rob Chapman. I like those guys' channels quite a bit. But there's really none of them that I get to you know, that I mean, I don't just get to sit down and watch YouTube videos at will. I watch it, you know, as much as I can, but half the time somebody says, "Here, check this out," you know, and it's a 10-minute video, and I've got, you know, a plate full of stuff that you know in front of me that I need to get done first. So. Christopher Morrow says, I get a kick out of watching the making of videos from Metallica. I really learn a lot watching them in the studio. Yeah. Yep. The first eye opener to that was the Some Kind of Monster documentary when they were documenting their journey recording the Saint Anger record. And that was kind of really the first, like, really inside look into what those guys' lives are really like that I ever saw. And, you know, that was, you know, also a pretty good documentary about, you know, James Hetfield getting sober the first time, which unfortunately, you know, he slipped recently, but my understanding is back on his feet again, which I hope is absolutely the case. Waleed says, I sure do, or I'm sorry, Doc Amos Roxy says, I sure do miss the 70s concert experience. Ridiculously cheap festival seating until the Who concert in Cincinnati. The people trampled each other over to death trying to get in. I think the festival seating idea, you know, and while I wasn't around to go, I mean, I was around in the 70s, but I wasn't old enough to go to concerts yet. You know, it may have worked then, but the way people, you know, have just gotten crazier ever since then. There's no way it would work now. And AC/DC proved that. You know, I think they had I think they had a festival seating concert. It was, and that may have been in the 90s, but yeah, same thing happened. You know, as soon as the gates opened, everybody charged in to the front. I think 3 people actually got trampled to death. You know, there's 3 people that went to go see AC/DC and didn't walk out that night. So, Cool Guitar Gear is here. There's another channel that you guys need to go check out. He has been very, very gracious, and he's referred a lot of vendors to me over the last couple of weeks, and I would really, really like to return the favor. He does a lot of reviews and stuff via online blogs and stuff like that, but he's trying to grow his YouTube channel, and it would really mean a lot to me, and I'm sure it would mean a lot to him if you guys went and pardon me, went sub to his channel. He's a good dude. It says, I'm late to the party. You just did a review on the Honker Overdrive. What the hell is the Honker Overdrive? And currently working on some Morley wahs. Did you get your Morley Vi-wah yet? I'm not going to say which one, but yes, I did receive a package from Morley in the mail this week. I did. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So I'm going to start working on that video here this coming week. So Orville Farley says, have you thought about doing a video on any other Harley Benton guitars? I have, but they have not, it would be, at this point anyway, because I haven't been able to get in touch with anybody at Harley Benton. So, so if I did do one, it would be at my own expense, and that's a good, I just don't want to buy one. I don't want to buy one just to, just to demo it on my channel, because then I'd have to resell it, which wouldn't be the end of the world, of course, but it's a lot of work. So, there's some brands out there that I'm more than willing to do that with. Not just guitar brands. Pedal brands and amps, and there are some companies out there whose products I'm willing to do that with. But having never owned a Harley Benton, they're not one of them. So, hey, buddy Joel Akins is in here. Says Ben Burnley is now available in ESP custom line. But that's the thing, custom. I think that's that's a special order thing. I don't think they make an ESP production model. Well, that's what you're talking about, though. You're talking about the ESP production model line as opposed to E2s. So I haven't seen them yet. I don't. I'd be curious to know what they sell for. The LTDs are like $1,300. So the ESPs, I'm going to assume those are at least. I'm going to assume those are at least like $5,000. Southern Gentleman says, favorite preamp tubes you'd like to use. I don't get too picky with tubes. I've had good luck with JJs, to be honest. They're affordable and seem to be reliable, and they sounded good in just about every amp that I put them in. My good buddy Tony Ramsey disagrees with me. He hates JJs. Absolutely hates them, and he likes the old RCA NOS, new old stock tubes, if you can find them. I've never even seen those for sale anywhere, but he's a very resourceful guy when it comes to that kind of thing. But for my purposes, JJs have always worked fine. If I do like to spend, feel like spending a little bit more money, then I'd probably go tongue sole or Mullard. I have not ever had good luck at all with groove tubes. Never had good luck with groove tubes. And Ruby, like the higher end Ruby tubes are okay. The cheap ones, I'm not real big on those either. For that money, I'd rather spend the money on JJs and get something that reliable that I know is going to do what I need it to do. So, Caleb Hilton says, what was your first guitar and what was the first song you learned on it? First guitar, I talked about this here a little bit ago. It was a Strat copy called a TSX 2000 that I still have. If you want to see it, there is a video on my channel called My Guitar Collection 2018, I believe is the title of the video. So you can search for that on my channel and see that guitar. Because like I said, I still have it. I don't play it anymore, but I still have it. There's a short in the wiring or something in there really is the main reason why I don't. But regardless, that was my first guitar. The first song that I learned on it, the first song that I learned on it was probably Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix. The first riff that I learned on it, on the other hand, though, I think was... was Lack of Communication by Rat. Or You're in Love, one of the two. Both of those riffs actually are pretty similar. Something like that. God, that was a long time ago now. Wow. I'm not sure I could recall either one of those riffs on command now. Gabriel says, Robert, did you settle on a Strat yet, or are you still looking? Yes, I did settle on a Strat. And that's all I'm going to say about that right now, because I don't want to spoil pride. Surprise. Augustine Hernandez says, message retracted. Infant says, Robert, have you played any 10S guitars? Yes, I have. This is the EXP Blaze guitar that they sent me to demo, and I like it very much. I like it very much. It's built. I mean, it feels like an Epiphone. The neck might be a little fatter. I don't know. I guess I'd have to go grab one of my Epiphones now to find out. I've gotten so used to playing really, really thin necks that when I grabbed this one, I mean, it didn't feel like a baseball bat or anything, but it was definitely fatter than anything I'd played in a while. But still comfortable neck profile. So, no, they sent me that to demo here a month or two ago, and I really, really like it. It's a great guitar, man. Great, and nothing wrong with it at all. Nothing wrong with it at all. So that video is up on my channel here fairly recently if you want to go check that out. Cool Guitar Gear says, I asked for a headless Harley Benton to review, but they were not interested. I'm curious, but I doubt it would be as good as what I have. Music Man Checker, etc. Well, you know, Joey Van Osteren, who was in the chat earlier, I don't know if he's still hanging out in here or not, but he got, what's the Amarok? Is that their new headless model? He got that from Toman, and he said there was all kinds of quality issues to the point that if you scroll up in the chat, you can probably see it, you know, where he was talking about it. But he mentioned that is that the Super Strat? Is that the headless one or the Super Strat? HarleyBenton.com. That's the Super Strat one. Okay. But I guess they had, you know, they had to halt production on them or something, or I don't think they had a recall on them. But I mean, there's a, you know, they've had enough of them that they've gotten returned. That you know, they've got to get some production things straightened out. So Augustine Hernandez says, sorry, long story short, been a subscriber since. I didn't get a chance to read the story, but I'll take your word for it. Thank you very much for subscribing and supporting the channel. I appreciate it very, very much. All of you, by the way. Not just Augustine Hernandez, but all of you. Kobe says, Robert, if you set up a poll for the Strat buy, Fender Music Man, G&L, and so on, would you abide by the results? My vote would be for the G&L, incidentally. No. And the reason why I ruled out G&L was because all of their Strat models, Strat style models, you know, and I'm just looking, you know, if you're not familiar with this, you know, I've been saying for a while that I need myself a good Strat, you know, doesn't have to be a Fender, you know, but, you know, a good solid Strat style guitar. And, you know, 3 single coils, because, you know, I don't have one. Never had one, really. But I need, you know, I would like to have one that would fill a tonal gap that I have. And, you know, so I've been exploring some of the, you know, some of the Fenders, the Music Mans, the G&Ls, you know, some of the import brands that we talked about, you know, the 10S's and Harley Benton, stuff like that. And the reason why I ruled out the G&Ls is because all their body, you know, they make Strat style guitars. They have 3 single coil pickups and stuff like that, but all their bodies are either basswood or mahogany, and that's not what I want. Those tone woods are, you know, those produce an entirely different sound, and you know, Strats are ash, traditionally anyway, are either alder / poplar, whatever you want to call it, alder or ash. And, you know, that's, you know, to get a mahogany bodied Strat is, you know, kind of defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to accomplish. You know, or a basswood bodied Strat. Again, same problem. So, so that is why I ruled out the G&Ls. Jeff Seven says, just checked out the new line of Morley Wahs, a flavor for everyone's taste. They have recently updated the line, but you're right. They do have some really cool stuff. They do have some cool stuff. You know, they got honestly the distortion wah and the lead wah are, you know, actually really have my attention. Sean Pierce Johnson did a demo on. Which one did he do now? I think it was, I think he did the distortion wah, I think. And sounded really, really good. Of course, all of that dude's demos sound really, really good. But Southern Gentleman says, have you got to try out the Squire Bullet Telecaster? If so, did you like it? I mean, I've played them before, and, you know, the Squire Bullet stuff, no. You know, that's really, really entry level That's their really entry-level guitar. You know, for what it is, you know, they're built well enough, they'll get the job done. But, you know, number one, you know, but that guitar is not built for somebody like me, number one. And number two, I'm not much of a telly guy. You know, tellies are a little too twangy for my taste. Christopher Morrow says my first guitar was out of the J.C. Penney catalog, cheap Harmony Electric with a battery-powered amp and with overdrive effect when you cranked it all the way up. First song was "Welcome to the Jungle." That was your first song. I'm impressed. That's not an easy song to learn, even if you've been playing for a little while. Waleed says Squire bullets are awesome. There you go. Don't take my word for it. Waleed plays better than I do. Doc Games Roxy says, saw you playing your Music Man recently. Tell me why it's your favorite. Is it similar in feel to PRS? No, it feels nothing like a PRS. It's got a really, really thin neck on it. Thin, fast, sleek is the best way that I can think of to describe that neck. You know, it is impossible to pull a bad tone out of that guitar. I like the versatility of it. I like it's really lightweight. Mine weighs less than 7 pounds. 6.78 pounds to be specific was what mine weighs. And most of them are, most of the Majesties are right around that, that 7 pound mark. So mine is a little under 7 pounds. So really, really lightweight, easy to handle. I don't mind heavy guitars, but the fact that this one is, that's just one less thing for me to worry about. The pickups sound great for just about any kind of music that, any genre of music you can think of. It's, they're, versatile, there's a coil tap feature on it, there's a boost feature on it, and the piezo pickup on it is the best piezo pickup I have ever heard by a wide margin. So, people ask me that all the time. Why is Majesty your favorite guitar? The best answer that I can give you: go find one in a store and sit down and play it, and you will see why. And if it's not your thing, that's okay. But if it's that's perfectly okay. But it's just a fantastic instrument. So one that I immediately fell in love with. Stays in tune, even with with a non-locking tremolo. Or I guess the tremolo's locking, but the bridge isn't. It stays in tune almost flawlessly. Because the neck is as thin as it is, it does like to move with the seasons. I do have to adjust the neck on it a little bit more often than other guitars that I own. But fortunately, Music Man make it easy, and they put that little wheel adjustment, truss rod adjustment, down at the base of the neck, between the last fret and the neck pickup. So it's just a matter of sticking a rod or the end of an Allen wrench or something in there and cranking on it, as opposed to having to do it from the headstock. Kobe Out says, Robert, would modifying your first guitar, blackouts, live wires, EMG, DiMarzio, bare knuckles, etc., be worth the effort? Does the feel of it defeat the purpose? Modifying my first guitar, no. I wouldn't touch it. And that's a Strat copy anyway. So that guitar has 3 single coils in it. So would I modify? I wouldn't modify that one just for nostalgic reasons more than anything at this point. But if we were to rewind all the way back to 88 or 89, and I had any idea what any of that stuff was and what the result would be, I probably would have considered it at the time. But now, every one of those pickups that you mentioned are going to be upwards of $200 plus the cost of me paying somebody to put them in. So, now you're going to get up around $3 at that point. As we've talked about plenty today already, you can get a pretty nice guitar by itself for $300. It's got, pretty good electronics, i.e. that 10S sitting right behind me. So, no, I'm not a real big advocate for modifying guitars. No, I mean, I shouldn't say I'm not an advocate. People do it all the time, and that's fine. But, I am much more interested in buying a guitar if it has everything on it that I want from the get-go. If it, rather than buying something that doesn't have something I want and then, spending a budget. I mean, I want to spend my time playing them, not working on them. XA Town 23X. I'm assuming that's an A Town 23 with an X on the front and back. As my dog's going ballistic here behind me. There's not even anybody walking out in front of the house. I don't know what you're barking at. Bird fly by the window or something? Not even a mailman out there. Come here. Come here, Zoe. Where are you? There you are. Come here. What gauge strings do you prefer? Again, depends. I talked about this earlier too. Depends on the guitar, more specifically the scale length of the guitar. If it's Gibson scale length 24 3/4 versus most everything else is 25 1/2. That affects what gauges that I go with. What tuning I'm going to be that I'm going to put it in. So as a rule, I like lighter strings myself. The longest time I was putting like 9 to 46 on just about everything, except for guitars that were tuned to like a half step down, or I'm sorry, whole step, like standard D or drop C or something. Then I'd go to 10 to 46 or something, maybe 10 to 52. But anymore, I'm if it's a guitar that I got tuned down a whole step, or a drop C or something, it's still getting 10s. 10 to 46, 10 to 52, but everything else now is 9 to 42, or guitars, 25 1/2 inch scale guitars are tuned standard, like a BC Rich guitar, my ASM Pro that I have, that one's actually got 8s on it. So I like light strings. I don't play hard enough. I mean, I don't remember. I break a string probably once every 2 or 3 years, maybe. So, I don't have to have the heaviest strings in the world, and lighter strings, as Rick Beato proved in his video a few months ago, lighter strings tighten up the bottom end of your guitar tone. Orville Farley says, do you own any vintage instruments? It depends on what your definition of vintage is. I guess technically the definition of vintage is anything older than 25 years older, and or worth more now than it was when it was new. So by those parameters, and this is my retail experience talking here, by those parameters, then yes, I have an 87 Charvel Model 5. There's another guitar made in Japan that's collectible. I have an 87 Charvel Model 5. I've got an 84 Kramer Focus. There's another guitar made in Japan that's collectible. And I've got an 85 USA Hamer Scarab. And I don't think I have any 70s guitars right now. That may be as old as it gets. There's that 80. What I think that's an 86. You guys can just barely see it. That's a Charvel 3B. I think that's it. I think that's all I got that would be classified as vintage. You can make the argument for my Zakk Wylde, my Gibson Zakk Wylde Vertigo Les Paul, because that one's worth a lot more now than it was when it was new. But yeah, So, but if you're talking like, 60s and 70s Fenders and Gibsons and Gretches and Gills and stuff like that, no. I'm not too much. I think vintage gear is cool from a retail standpoint, and from a just a guy that loves guitars. I think they're cool, but number one, I could never justify paying that kind of money for an instrument that I'm buying to play them. I play them more than I collect them. Is the bottom line, number one, and number two, I just like more modern stuff. I like modern guitars and modern amps and modern tones and that kind of thing. Southern Gentleman says, did you get to try the Diesel VH4 Herbert pedals? Which one did you like best? I've actually never played either one of them, but I have played both of those amps. The Herbert is my favorite by a lot. Thunder Falcon says, hello, RGD, and all in the chat. I think he was like the very first one in here. I thought you were anyway. Michael Collins says, Music Man bodies are typically basswood. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. There is an exception. I think I think there's a couple of the current line that have like a transparent finish that they actually went mahogany on, but they still have that carbon fiber shield top thing on them. I can't remember. They're built in the construction of those guitars is really, really unique. Caleb Hilton says, what's your thoughts on Fender Mustang? Assuming you're talking about the amps, like the modeling amps, I know like the first couple of generations of them actually seemed to be pretty, most people that bought them seemed to like them. And they were out around the same time as the Line 6, like the Spider 4s, for example. Spider 4s, the original PV Vipers, that era. People that bought those Mustangs really seem to like them, but now I hear, and I'm not a modeling amp guy, so, I haven't actually, modeling amps are like processors to me. They're far more, I find them to be a huge pain in the ass. So, I'm not much of a modeling amp guy, but the people that do like them, I've tried like the Mustang GT series. Some people seem to like them, and I've heard other people complain about them. They don't sound good at all. I don't know what the complaint is, man. I've not known Fender to make any terrible amps in quite some time. So me personally, I wouldn't be afraid of them if I did decide to go buy one. Thunder Falcon says SRV used 13s, I believe, and he still broke strings. Yes, he did. He used 13s, and my understanding was that was after his guitar tech talked him down from using, before, he at one point was using 17s. He had to, he had to buy a custom set because you can't, I don't think anybody's ever made a set of strings that started with a 17. So, he was making his own custom set of strings, and his smallest string was a 17, and finally his a guitar tech or somebody, pointed out to him and said, dude, you were totally murdering the necks on your guitars and bending them and twisting them beyond repair. You need to start playing lighter strings. So, they got him down to 13s. All right, man. Take care, Waleed. Have a good rest of your weekend. Thanks for hanging out for a while. Famer 7 says, does electric guitar wood even matter? Does stainless steel frets matter? Yes and yes. Yes and yes. If you don't think the tone wood matters, then Well, you're wrong. It's not everything, and it's not all of the tone in a guitar, but I do think it certainly plays a very, very significant role. People know what mahogany sounds like. People know what rosewood sounds like. People know what maple sounds like. So yes, does it matter? Absolutely. As far as stainless steel frets go, I don't think the stainless steel versus nickel frets, I don't think make any tonal difference. But stainless steel frets are a lot more durable. They last way, just about last forever. I mean, whereas nickel frets, they will wear down with nickel strings rubbing against them constantly all the time. So, again, a lot of that also has to do though with how hard you play. And again, going back to the point I made earlier, where I said I rarely break strings. I've actually never had to have a guitar refretted either. So I just I'm a pretty light-handed guitar player. Music Man Armada, Kaguya says, Music Man Armada's had a mahogany body, if not mistaken. Probably. That was a heavy guitar. If you never played one, that was a heavy guitar, and that thing had a gigantic neck on it. That was their first neck through design, and it had, with all the marketing they put behind it, it had a lot of potential, but it didn't do very well for them, unfortunately. But the St. Vincent model that they're selling now, they're selling those like crazy, and those and you can see in the body shape that was actually based off of and inspired by the Armada from 10 or 12 years ago. Jake Merrill says, how badass would it be if Boss expanded the Blues Driver into a rack unit? It'd be pretty cool if you're into rack gear. There's not really not too many guitar players nowadays that are into new rack gear. I can't even think of really any companies that are making a ton of rack gear. TC might still be making a few things, but Southern Gentleman says, do you like any pedals with preamp tubes in them? Yeah, the TC Electronic Tube Pilot actually is a that one's got a preamp tube in it that I like. It's basically a clone of the old Chandler Tube Driver, which is a great overdrive. Seems I don't know them. I may have one or two others around here that have a preamp tube in them somewhere, but that's the first one that comes. Those are the first couple anyway that come to mind. Crazy Cook 678 says, "Hi Robert, good to see you. Can you play your Paul Stanley guitar, your Zach Wild guitar soon, and a video? Thanks. I'll see what I can do." Cool Guitar Gear says, "Looking forward to seeing your Lunchbox amp collection demo." I wasn't aware I did a Lunchbox amp collection demo. Sorry, dude. And no, I don't have a Seriatone. TL Pedals Canada. Welcome to you. I'm not familiar with you, but it seems like a few of you guys, know who he is. He, she, them. Guess I don't know. Cool Guitar Gear says, "Hey, TL Pedals is here, the maker of the Honker Overdrive." There we go. The Honker Overdrive that you mentioned earlier. Cool. Now we know who they are. Welcome. Alex2112 is here. Says, "Hey, Robert, great show. I'm playing my Les Paul through my Marshall half stack." What else would you play a Les Paul through, my friend? Those are two. That's like chocolate and peanut butter in my opinion. You have it advertised top 13 greatest lunchbox amp heads ever. Right. Yes. Yeah. But it's not a demo video. It's not a demo video. Usually those videos on my channel usually equate to a list of stuff that I like to call the greatest ever, the worst ever, because calling it the greatest ever, the worst ever which to me clearly says, this is one, especially in a YouTube video title, clearly to me says this is somebody's opinion, but I find it absolutely hilarious how many people get pissed off over a title like that. So, yes, there was a video prompt this morning because I was messing around with the Premiere features. Some creators like to set premieres, and I have they didn't give me any options or anything for dates or anything. It just said do you want to set this as a premiere? So I clicked the box and hit OK, and next thing I know, I got people commenting and leaving messages this morning. Hey, there's a premiere for this video that that doesn't go up for another week and a half or 2 weeks. So going. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I don't know how that works yet. So, and I may not do it again. I'm just, like I said, I was just messing with it for the first time when I was uploading videos late last night. So, yeah. RGD, you should have realized the guy was speaking of your video. I'm out. That wasn't cool. Okay. I don't know what I said, but at any rate. Southern Gentleman says, do you still use your Black Star Distortion X pedal, tube pedal regularly? Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. I don't use it as regularly as I do some others, but the truth is, I'm not sure there's really any. I'm not sure there's really any pedals that I use really regularly. I've got so many of them now, and I try to, I try to grab them, not necessarily put them in a rotation, but a lot of times if I'm doing something that that any distortion pedal will work, I'll just try to grab something that, I haven't used in a while, that you guys haven't seen in a while, or just something I want to use because I haven't used it in a while. So, that doesn't always work out that way, but, when I'm able to do that, that's what I try to do. So, All right. Well, almost 2.5 hours with this one today. So, guys, thanks for hanging out. Looks like I think I may have pissed off a few of you. I don't know what I said, but, looks like a few of you bailed out anyway over something I said. At any rate, so all of you, thank you so much for hanging out. Those of you that, that contributed to the Super Chat and, support the channel, be it monetarily or otherwise. Again, all of you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday to hang out, and yeah. What's this about a Splon Quick Rod? And TL Pedals, yeah, shoot me an email. I'd love to chat with you. So happy to make another live show with Les Paul. Oh, I see. Okay, cool. All righty. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and stay safe.